Let's talk about that with Lucy Powell then. She is the Labour Shadow Business Minister and joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, look, you're making some very, very, very timely warnings today about businesses facing this bombshell in April. We're looking at rates, holidays, tax deferrals, VAT cuts, the furlough scheme. Loads of other support packages are due to end. You're saying this is a bombshell of £50 billion.
Well, it is. Yeah, it's a huge amount of money. All these schemes are all coming to an end, and the deferrals that businesses have incurred and so on are all having to be started to be paid back at the same point in this one big bombshell that amounts to £50 billion for businesses at the beginning of April, when we don't even know yet whether many of them will actually be reopen at that point. So, this, unless we tackle this and the government extends the support in some areas, and we're calling for them to extend the business rate holiday, extend the VAT cut for hospitality, and extend and make sort of smarter the furlough scheme as well, whilst public health restrictions continue to be in place. Because if we don't do that, we're going to see a huge wave of insolvencies. And the Federation of Small Businesses have warned that 250,000 businesses could go bust in the next few months without some additional support.
Now, has Labour just woken up to this? Because people like me have been warning about this for months and months on end. This is the cost of lockdown, a policy which not only do you support, you'd always wanted it to be sooner, and you'd want tighter restrictions. This is a policy you back, isn't it?
The policy we don't back is that the economic support is not now keeping pace with these necessary health restrictions. And, they unfortunately are, necessary, incredibly difficult time, having a huge impact on the economy, on people's well-being and everything else. But we have to keep pace for as long as they are in place. We've got to keep pace with them with the right economic support, because we've supported businesses and jobs for the last 12 months nearly. And now would be economically illiterate, frankly, for us to start pulling the rug on businesses just at this point so that they go bust right at the end of this period. We now got the vaccine rollout going on apace, and the reopening of the economy now on the horizon. So we're just looking for these next few weeks and months to get businesses through to the next side so that we can save jobs, we can save livelihoods, and in the long run, we can save the public purse a lot more money in the long run by supporting businesses today, because the cost of insolvency, the cost of redundancy, the cost of choking off the recovery because we haven't got businesses there to power drive that recovery, all of that will cost our public finances a great deal more than the cost of doing something today.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you 100%, and I'm sure a lot of my listeners do, that, again, if people aren't able to open their businesses, the help has to still be there. When in December the furlough scheme was extended to the end of April, that was the big red neon sign to me saying things were are going to continue to be bad. So what are you actually calling for the government to do? Because we've got a budget to be announced by Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, on March the 3rd, but, that is still, best part of 4 weeks away until we actually find out what's going on. Businesses right now want to know what's going to be happening in a matter of a few weeks' time, and they don't know. So what do you want to hear in the budget, or what do you want to hear sooner than the budget?
Well, you're absolutely right. We need to hear this sooner. This needs to, at the very latest, these sorts of measures need to be announced alongside the Prime Minister's sort of reopening road plan on the 22nd of February, even sooner, ideally, because businesses are making decisions today. And as far as they know today, they are going to have to find money to start repaying their VAT deferrals, which amount to £34 billion businesses have deferred in VAT deferrals. They're going to have to start paying business rates again on the 1st of April, and that's nearly £10 billion to retail and hospitality businesses which are still closed. And when you're looking ahead at your cash flow, and most businesses now have got less than 3 months of cash reserves left in their bank accounts, when you're looking ahead to that, you're making decisions today about whether you can keep staff on, whether you can keep your business going at all, or whether you can reopen or restock, and all of those issues. So decisions are being made today. And in fact, councils are about to start sending out their letters for the business rates for next year. So that holiday really does need extending for 6 months, at least 6 months, until the economy is back on its feet.
Okay. Again, I've got to be honest, I agree with almost everything you've had to say there. But my big worry is, let's keep extending this. Let's keep helping businesses. But the thing that we could do that would really help businesses is allow them to reopen. We know that, shops and cafes and bars, restaurants and all the other businesses that have been forced to close. That's what's hit them. It's not the pandemic that's hit them so much. It is the policy of lockdown. You talked about the economy reopening in the next few weeks or months. You talked about it being on the horizon. If Labour were in power right now, when would we be reopening? What are the criteria? What's the timetable for reopening our economy and getting back to normal life?
Well, I mean, I think our criteria and our roadmap probably wouldn't be that different from the government's, because we'd be looking at the same evidence and getting the same guidance as them. But you're absolutely right. What businesses want the most, in fact, what most people who are on furlough want the most, is to get back to work, is to get back trading. So I think we what people want is some certainty around that, is to know that this, in a way, will be the last time that when they reopen, they're able to reopen with good notice. They're able to reopen in a way that's viable. So we can't have any of this nonsense about pubs reopening without serving alcohol, for example, or the substantial meal criteria and all these sort of extra sort of last minute restrictions.
What about the 10 p.m. curfew that your party supported as well?
Well, we didn't. We had some concerns about the fact that was just too early, and was just kicking everyone out at the same time. So I think the government had already dropped that previously. So hopefully, businesses will be able to open in a way that they can operate around, that is viable and is a way that they understand.
When you say that we'd basically be operating on the same sort of timetable as the government in terms of lockdown re-easing, because we'd be taking the same advice, you do understand the difference between taking advice and governing. And this is the issue I've got with the government. And I think the opposition, I'm not quite sure what the opposition is currently on this, because what's the point of the Labour Party if you're not opposing any of the government measures, really? Is that the advice is what the advice is on terms of public health, but it isn't. It is the job of publicly elected and accountable politicians to make decisions about weighing up various different risks. There are huge risks to continuing lockdown, as well as, we're told, huge risks to ending lockdown. Do you not think that Labour might make a different calculation than the Tory party?
Sure. Well, as I say, we've got quite a big different opinion with the government about the economic support and how we need to support the recovery, how we need to support jobs, how we come out of this pandemic. And we aren't subject to all the daily sort of information, the scientific data and so on, unfortunately, as the opposition. But I think there is a broad consensus that we need to reopen in a timely way, in a way that people have good notice, but that is something that doesn't put our public health at risk.
Well, again, thank you very much for joining us. I know you need to go. Lucy Powell, Labour's Shadow Business and Consumers Minister.